Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special guest on the channel once again, and we're going to be talking about a very polarizing topic, which I'm actually really excited to dive into. But if this is your first time here, this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. Our motto around here is that you can dream alone, you can create alone, but together you can achieve so much more. And we do that around here in various ways. One of the ways of which is we actually have song contests, and we bring on really cool people like we are today to talk about really cool topics. If you'd like to be a part of the March song contest, there is a link in the description of the video where you can go and upload your submission to that, and basically we will all listen to those songs together. I'll give some professional feedback, and the winner will get a free mix and master from yours truly. Today's episode title is Cakewalk by BandLab versus Pro Tools. This is, like I said, this is going to be a little polarizing, but I'm digging it. I'm liking it. This is what it's all about. Asking the hard questions. All right, so let's give a huge shout out to some chart toppers today. These are individuals who have kept the lights on in a clearly proverbial sense. James Sheets, Chris Knowles, Ben Grauer, Mob the Gamer, Mark George, and a myriad of other individuals have either donated through the super chat feature, which you'll find at the bottom left-hand corner of your chat bar right now. That just helps to mitigate bandwidth and all other time invested. Cool stuff. We talked about that in the last podcast with the gentleman that's on here today, about finding knowledge and supporting people who are doing what they're doing. So these are individuals who have done that. Love each and every one of them. Before we get into today's topic today, though, I do have a real quick shout out from a sponsor, so we'll go to that now. Today's video is sponsored in part by the Pro Mix Academy. The Pro Mix Academy offers affordable courses from mentors, world-class engineers, Grammy winners, and multi-platinum selling producers. And with the resources available on the Pro Mix Academy, you can learn how to create radio-ready mixes from the comfort of your own home studio. Most of the courses also offer multi-tracks that you can then add to your portfolio and begin to build out your business. Follow the link in the description of this video to head on over to the Pro Mix Academy today and start learning the skills that are needed to take your hobby or your business to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Elliot is with us today, and we're going to be discussing, like I have already said, and I think I'm cutting the top of Scott's head off here. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay. That was on my end. There he is. So, Scott, today's topic is one that like I've already said, I think it's going to be a little bit polarizing, but I like to talk about things like this because I think it's one of those conversations that needs to be had, because for years and years and years, all I have ever heard is you got to get Pro Tools because it's the industry standard.
Well, it was in the 90s, because it was the first DAW that it's what's the way to put this, right? I mean, it was basically legitimately the first way to digitally work with audio, both in the tape and the digital RAM at the same time at that point in time. And it was the industry standard basically because there was nothing else. And then that clearly isn't the case anymore. Right. So, but we've already got some really sweet comments in here. Alexei, what's up, my man? Good to see you. So it's going to be an interesting discussion for sure.
Yeah, speaking of which, some of the comments that are already coming in are, I'm seeing a little bit of slightedness towards the Pro Tools side, which is fine. And I'm seeing some questions here that aren't necessarily regarding what we're talking about today, but we'll try to get to those. I would go ahead and make mention that if you're going to post a question in the chat and you want to make absolutely positive, certain that question gets answered, because we're going to be going through a lot of things here today and we may not have time to always look over at the chat, use the super chat feature, and it can be anywhere from, $1.99 and up. I think you can even go as low as 99 cents, but that will basically get that pushed up to the top where it will force us to see that question. And then we'll try to get to that. And also make sure that you try to word your questions in the best way possible to where it'll be legible, understandable, and try not to be too wordy. I mean, I know that there are some things that you have to really, try to explain yourself on, but try to keep the questions limited to, being just straight to the point and basic so that we can actually answer the question the best way possible. So, but yeah, I would definitely say, by all means, ask tons of questions because that's what we're here for.
And I do want to preface right away, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people who are watching the stream now, they're like, yes, I want to watch a stream where people dogpile against Pro Tools. Not necessarily,
Right.
right? So we need to preface this like if someone is just starting to get into this and they've heard that, oh, you got to get Pro Tools because it's the industry. First of all, it's not. It's just a lot of people who have been mixing for 20 years. It's just what they use. It doesn't make it the standard. It just means a lot of people use it. Now, after that, you have to find out what it is you yourself want to do. What are you trying to accomplish? If your goal is only in the audio realm and you absolutely need to edit drums, Cakewalk is not your option. All right? Pro Tools, Cubase are pretty much, and maybe Reaper are going to be the three that you're going to want to look at. So it's all based on what you need to do. If you want to do heavy MIDI composition, lots of keyboards, lots of MIDI, Pro Tools is not what you want to use. Okay, so every DAW has its strengths and weaknesses, but just getting Cakewalk because it's free or Pro Tools because it's the industry standard is silly. All right, so that preface out of the way, I think we can begin.
Awesome. I'm glad you did that too, because I don't want individuals in the stream either to think that, well, this guy's got a Cakewalk channel, so we know where this is going. That's not the case at all. As much as I love Cakewalk, I am constantly telling people who are asking me questions like, hey, which DAW is the best for me? My first response to that is always, which one are you using now? Because the second you go down that rabbit hole of switching DAWs and trying to learn brand new GUIs and interfaces and trying to learn all this, you actually end up shooting yourself in the foot. And the whole goal is to maintain creativity and forward motion. So
right.
When you find a DAW,
most of us are not in most of us. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're fine.
Most of us are not in the professional space where we need to have all the major DAWs because we're working with so many different clients.
Right.
Most of the time, at least in my case, I've had only one time of the dozens and dozens of clients that I've had where the guy's like, well, I use Pro Tools. I'm like, that's nice. Bounce them out like you would anyone. You're getting stems anyway. All right. But if you like move up the ladder and you're doing really complicated sound design for movies and games, okay, maybe then we would have to make the argument where you probably need to know a couple different DAWs for different reasons, for different functionalities. But what Rob said is like straight on point. The longer you stay in the one DAW, the better off you are, unless you realize that there's a feature you super absolutely need that's not in the DAW that you're using now. For example, if you were getting started in this stuff and you wanted to write music, let's just say metal songs, for example, and for some reason you decided to invest in FL Studio. Well, not the best choice, but if you got to that point where you realize I'm just not efficient in FL Studio, I need to move to something else, that would probably be a point where myself and Rob would go, okay, you are making a DAW move for a logical reason, not just because, right?
Right.
There's a reason. So, there was a comment here, I believe, Lee, all DAWs are essentially the same. They work with audio, but their functionality is different. Some DAWs are better for some other things, so on and so forth, right? So Rob's straight on with that.
With that being said, I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for just currently losing Scott.
All right.
Even before this, we had a little bit of issues with OBS not working properly. I'm currently getting that fixed for right now, though, and we'll have him back on the screen, and do apologize. This stuff always happens during live events anyway.
Of course it does. It never happens when you're testing it or when you need to film it offline. It's only live.
And Scott's back. Good deal. Okay. Lee Bennett says, should I ask? So ask in the form of an answer like Jeopardy. That's good. So let's go ahead and start tackling some of these, which
Absolutely.
Scott has just brought up a really, really good sort of set of beginning arguments, I guess, for any DAW on the market. And if you followed my channel for very long, and I'm sure he probably clues in on the same things, I have said, and I even, whenever I was introduced on Warren Hewart's channel with the course that we're currently selling for Cakewalk, whenever he said, well, what's your top 5 reasons? I even included that caveat there, and it would have been more beneficial for me to say, use only Cakewalk because I'm creating a course. But the thing that I said was, Cakewalk, much like Pro Tools, much like Logic, Cubase, Ableton, whatever you're using, is just a tool. And it's however you're using that tool and which one feels best in your hand. And that's, so we're not, like he's already stated, we're not going, just one DAW only. But what we are saying is, there's this great divide right now, which it's been for years, and newcomers, if you're new into this, you're going to hear, I guarantee you're going to hear Pro Tools is the industry standard. You got to get Pro Tools. And what we're going to kind of try to do is save some money for you, for one thing.
Absolutely.
And also save you some headaches and frustrations down the road. So one of the first things that I see continually come up, and maybe you can speak on this, and one of the reasons why I've brought him on here today too is not just because he's got a really cool looking beard, but he's but he's also actually used Pro Tools before, whereas I have not. And so I want to really pick his brain about this and see. So one of the biggest things that continually comes up, whether it's any DAW, is CPU usage. So how does Pro Tools stack up in that?
So listen, I mean, I became Pro Tools certified, true story, and it was not a fun process. It was great when it worked, but the problem was that this was 2013. It was like Pro Tools 10 or 11, I don't remember anymore. But this was even back in the day where DAWs like Cakewalk have automatic latency makeup, and they do it automatically.
Right.
But Pro Tools didn't. So every time you had to start a project, these are all configuration settings that you had to keep in mind. And if you screwed it up, it wasn't necessarily a fact that you could fix it, right, without having to start over. And there was just, and it was slow if you had a bad CPU. And also at the time, the monitors weren't as big as they are now. Like the studio that I worked in had 2 monitors, but it was like basically 2 14-inch squares. And I don't know now about Pro Tools. Like I just got a new copy of it because I'm going to be doing some stuff for an upcoming course that I'm doing. And so I literally am going to have to teach myself Pro Tools again. So, but I just remember everything about Pro Tools that used to piss me off endlessly. Sorry about that word, by the way. But I mean, like, for example, folders. Can't make them in Pro Tools. You just have this, right? Scroll for days of Pro Tools. I found that absolutely silly. Just quality of life stuff like that. I didn't like how the auxiliary tracks work. I didn't like how the monitoring input worked. Oh, and you have to have the highest version of Pro Tools to monitor yourself for input recording. And I'm just like, that is like the most basic fundamental feature of recording. And they paywall it, and it's just like, why would you do that? And I remember one time we were sitting there with the engineer. We were trying to record something, and we couldn't get the inputs figured out. Couldn't get the routing figured out. We literally had a piece of paper. We're drawing lines, and we're we're doing our own matrix on a piece of paper. And you restarted the computer 3 times, and it worked. Changed nothing. True story. That was what it was like. And the engineer that was working there, poor guy. I mean, hated Pro Tools so much. He's like, I don't know why you're here. Pro Tools sucks. You should be looking at Cubase or something else. Not a good word. And I'm paying him to teach me Pro Tools, right? So my experience was very negative. I recorded an EP with it, 5 songs. Did drum programming and all these things in it. Also, wasn't very fun. The drum programming, which I think we can talk about later, is just not very advanced. I mean, when it gets to audio and editing audio, you have to admit that Pro Tools is top of the line. They sort of invented that whole work process of Beat Detective and editing and so on and so forth. So, I mean, you have to give it props, but they're just the industry and the ways people make music now has changed to such a degree that, I mean, it might make sense to not use Pro Tools, because if you are going to be a heavy MIDI editor or heavy composer, the arranging features and stuff like that in Pro Tools, not so great. Like for example, I use the arranger feature in Cubase all the time. It's just a non-linear arrangement feature where I can just dump riffs that I have in my head, or I can change the meter, I can change the BPM, I can draw basically a bookmark, and then I open up the arranger feature and I can just do whatever I want. I click basically like flatten, and all the BPM signatures, everything gets connected, and whoo, my song is basically composed. Or I mean, the parts are composed.
Right.
Time saver, right? Time saver. Because I remember how I used to do it in Cakewalk. So, but it's just like I just had a very negative experience with it. And actually, I was using Cakewalk 8 something at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna try to do this professionally now. I'm gonna become Pro Tools certified, and then like literally just threw money on the toilet, because after I became certified, I'm like, there's no way I want to deal with this. I had like no money at the time. I had a pretty mid-range PC, and there was no way that I would be able to do anything of consequence. I just stayed on Cakewalk until Gibson shut it down.
Yeah. See, it's like even Jurgen here has just commented in the chat section. He said, I was surprised when I found out that Pro Tools doesn't have ARA support. And
That's
so
another problem.
That's another problem that, yeah, it's an intrinsic problem that, I mean, that's one of those things that you've got to have nowadays with everything that's out there. And to your point too, like you were talking about earlier, it's called PDC, or plug-in delay compensation, was something that
Yeah, thank you.
Cakewalk
Yeah.
really championed. And it was out long before a lot of other companies had ever even thought
Yep.
about this kind of stuff. And it still has it built in under the hood now. And you can actually go in
Yep.
and upsample. You can turn on plug-in delay compensation and actually hear in real time what your plugins are doing through vocal effects or through guitar effects. And with
Yep.
that latency compensation already taken care of. So this is yet again going to add a little bit to your CPU usage, granted, but they even have ways to mitigate that. I know in Cakewalk, I don't know what it's like in Pro Tools, but in Cakewalk, you actually have a way too to where you can, now I'm going to space the name of that one, but it's basically you take all of your plugins and you can actually distribute them evenly instead of like
multi-core optimization. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's several different ways that they've already tried to mitigate the latency issues, the CPU issues. And so, as you know, Scott has just brought out, a lot of those things are lacking in Pro Tools. It's not that Pro Tools isn't, great and grand in other areas, but there's still some areas that I feel like, as long as it's been around as many times as it's been complained about, you would figure that by now Avid or Pro Tools would try to pick up that. And
Well, they're starting to come around because, like I said in the beginning of the stream, Pro Tools was the market back then. There was nothing else. You had other DAWs like Cubasis at the time before it became a DAW that could handle audio, right?
mm-hmm.
But then Cubase was basically like the European Pro Tools. Nobody in America Cubase. And then Joey Sturgis started using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cakewalk. I mean, okay, that's cool. And then incidentally, Cakewalk Pro Audio 9, if I remember correctly, is really the first DAW that incorporated audio and MIDI together, where you could do both. But It's just Pro Tools was already in the system, right? It was already there,
Right.
and even back then, people would make fun of it. It was called slow tools, right? Because computers were guys. If you're like 20 years old right now, you don't understand how crappy computers used to be. Legitimately, just 20 years ago, awful. You know, and granted, the projects might have been smaller, but audio is audio, and the CPUs and stuff just were not that good. They weren't that fast yet. The technology wasn't there. It's all single core stuff, and so it was slow going working on the digital world. It was faster to work on your analog desk, right?
Right.
And it was far more complicated to connect all these things to Pro Tools back in the day, right? But so I mean, we can't totally like throw the baby out with the bathwater here and say, yeah, screw Pro Tools. No, I mean, it paved the way, right? Of course, they were the industry standard for digital mixing back then. It's changing now, and Avid is starting to change as well. Because when you have a monopoly on the market, you don't need to do anything. You can just do what Intel does. They just add the letter K to their processor and re-release it next year for $300 more.
Right. Nail on
And
the head right
people
there.
buy it. Right? Waves plugging, fantastic example. 10 years ago, you're paying hundreds of dollars for a bundle of 3 plugins, and you're getting a massive deal. Yeah, then the Slate bundle comes, or excuse me, the Slate everything bundle comes out, and all of a sudden, Waves completely changes their business model. Now just sign up to the email list and wait, and you can basically get any plugin you want after some time for $30.
Exactly.
Okay, so times change. So there was just no reason for Avid to change for a long time because they had guaranteed. Dude, and Avid did everything. There's another thing that always hurt. I'm gonna start talking about some points here. So, Avid always did everything to make sure they were like a closed ecosystem. So Steinberg created the VST plugin, and every DAW on this earth can read a VST plugin, except Pro Tools. You need to buy a VST wrapper so you can use VSTs in Pro Tools because Pro Tools has its own proprietary AAX plugin format,
Right.
which costs money for developers to develop for, costs problems. Now you have 3 plugin formats you have to deal with all the time to release a plugin if you want to get maximum exposure. So a long time ago, Avid did everything it possibly could. Like, oh, we're going to sell you a Pro Tools rig for a silly amount of money, but you're professional. So you have this professional $10,000 Pro Tools rig, closed system. Did it work better? Who knows? But there are plenty of people who, to this day, even still use Sonar 8.5.3 and do just fine.
Right.
But I don't think you could load up such an old version of Pro Tools and be just fine because it would be so outdated. I don't know, but I mean that's just a history lesson, I suppose. So it doesn't matter what we say. People who use Pro Tools, if they're not stable, mentally stable sound people, are going to get upset. But it's just like there are things about Cubase that annoy me too.
Mm-hmm.
Every DAW has its nuances and its quirks. You just live with it and you learn the workaround. That's it. Some DAWs have more awful nuances than others. But the VST support really is horrible. I believe Avid should just build that functionality in instead of requiring, because now you have a third-party wrapper on top of the functionality, which is a plugin, which is CPU load, which is another bit of latency, which is another thing you have.
So it almost seems like to me that was sort of founded because Pro Tools has always been sort of Mac only, and anybody who owns an iPhone or a Mac device, that they also have these varying levels of paywalls where they have proprietary things that you have to buy. You can only have an iPhone cable that'll do this, and it has to be from the iPhone store. And I almost kind of wonder sometimes if they didn't get that business model off the backs of Apple.
I mean, I got my own opinion about those people that are silly enough to. I think One of the comedians said it best. New new phone doesn't fit the old charger. This is your hero.
Right.
So there's something to be said for both sides of the story, right?
Right.
But at some point, it just becomes absurd, and just people can just get in the way of themselves sometimes. So like really, the main thing I hope we can help someone who's watching this stream is if they are sitting there going like this. Cakewalk is free. Pro Tools is not as expensive as it used to be, but it's a subscription service at the very least, with 3 different versions, right? With Pro Tools Ultimate having everything unlocked, and more than likely that's the one you're going to need. So it's going to be like, I don't know, maybe Alex A knows how much it is a month. Or you can buy a license for a year. I mean, that's another whole argument, right? Just paying for the permission to use the software. Or, I mean, because people are like, well, it's free, it can't be that good. So then, they should understand that Cakewalk by BandLab has an entire history of being a professional product that costs $500 for 20 years, right? And then all that functionality of Cakewalk Platinum, Sonar Platinum, is what people have now, just minus all the third-party stuff.
Right.
Paid a lot of money for that back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then you also are able to use all the free plugins, the free compressors, the EQs. There's a lot of great free stuff out there right now that a person who earnestly might want to consider, maybe this is for me. The only investment that the guy would have to make would just be some time to sit down and check it out.
Right.
Well, that's if you go the Cakewalk route. If you go the Pro Tools route, you're already investing straight away without really knowing if it's what you want to do or not. That's okay too, because maybe if you spend the money, you'll be a bit more motivated to find out faster if this is for you or not. Whereas if it's free, people have a tendency to just download 100 plugins because they're free, and then never use them again. So, which way is correct? I can't tell you. Rob can't tell you. But all we can try to do here is just be aware of the differences.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about. This is just like a open-ended forum to help, like he said, help you make a better decision, a better buying decision if you do want to use, a little bit of the pocketbook. And if you want to jump into something free, Cakewalk is always there, and there's tons of resources online for you to learn it. This channel is an invaluable resource. I've got over 48 free tutorials here on the channel that you can learn pretty much all of the nuts and bolts of this. I do have a complete ultimate Cakewalk by BandLab course on the Pro Mix Academy if you're interested in that. And there's just, the sky is the limit, really. I mean, the options are out there, but you just have to find out what's going to work for you. And I see that Duas Basnet, I hope I didn't pronounce that wrong. He has a great question here that I hear a lot. He says, can you please tell me some experts or artists who use Cakewalk? Now, the word experts there, I think that's kind of a subjective term because one person's expert might be another person's, newbie. But just to name off just a few real quick, Aerosmith, Tom Hamilton, the bass player and founding member of Aerosmith, used or at least he did. I'm not sure if he does now, but he used at one time Sonar, which used to be Cakewalk, in his home studio on his laptop to record song ideas while they were on tour. Kevin Brandon, who's a world-renowned bassist who played for Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, In Vogue, James Brown, just to name a few, Snoop Dogg, I mean, you name it, he used Cakewalk. Brooks and Dunn, Jimmy Buffett, on and on, Ray Charles, on and on, the list goes. But the reason why it's not necessarily publicized as much is because Cakewalk has not had near enough as much publicity as it should have had. And I'll just be completely honest. I'm not paid by Cakewalk, so I can say these kind of things. They have dropped the ball on numerous occasions with individuals within their community, myself included, Scott included, who were championing, who were trying to champion the idea of getting Cakewalk out there and pushing it to the forefront. And then whenever you would reach out to them and say, hey, I'm on fire for this brand, I want to help, as soon as you mention anything about pay schedules or because some kind of pay structure, they drop the ball and they're like, well, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, which is nothing. So because it's not been widely publicized, that's why you don't hear as much about, people who are using it, because to be honest, they're not even really pursuing trying to get it out there. In my personal opinion, I think they could be doing a lot better job of that.
I don't know what the end game is. I really don't. Like honestly, to be honest with you, Rob, when Gibson shut it down, I'm like, well, that's it. That's the end of an era. That's the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then Band Lab bought it. I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, and they make it free. I'm like, what? Well,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Where's the monetization coming? And there are two great plugins that were developed on your Gibson brand that are not in the Cakewalk by BandLab right now. I'm talking about the updated LP EQ and the LPMB, the linear phase EQ and multiband, which were heavily inspired from the FabFilter plugins. Let me just say it like that. but they were nice.
Mm-hmm.
They looked great. They looked sleek. They worked nice, and it was a great, marketing. Like, hey, this is a bundled plugin. This is our own thing, and you can do this and this and this with it. Now those have all but disappeared. I don't know where they are. You and I don't know. You and I could still use them because all we would have to do is just install our Sonar Platinum,
right?
And they're included in that, and then run BandLab, and then everything will be fine. But I don't. Yeah, that's exactly the way it is. I was all about Cakewalk. That was my thing, and really, I hung on to it so long, straight out, just out of pure. What's the word I'm trying to think of right now?
Loyalty?
Yeah, exactly. That's the word. Because I started on Cakewalk Pro Audio 9, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't. I became so used to how it functioned, the interface, how to do everything, what I needed to do, and I just became so used to seeing it. But on the other hand, when Gibson shut it down and I was kind of forced, to contemplate the idea of oh man, I'm going to have to go to something else. Then I actually started seeing what the competition was doing, and it dawned on me, I'm like, dude, Cakewalk's 15 years behind in the best case scenario, in speed, especially in speed. You don't even realize how slow Cakewalk used to work. It's better now, but goodness, was it slow back then.
It really...
You would insert contact, and it would be a solid 10 seconds, 15 seconds before it would load, and then every track would load, dink, 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 dink. One of their marketing videos used to be comparing the two videos where it's dink, 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 two, dink, 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 dink. I'm like, but that's also bad. It should just be like that.
Right.
Like every other DAW right now is doing it. So now we're talking poorly about Cakewalk. See, it's Cakewalk's turn now. But it was just, so that's what happened. And then I tried Reaper, which I do like Reaper. I love it's instant. It works like lightning on my computer. Just don't like the interface. I don't like the way the folders tree is set up. I like to have my session set up a specific way, and I can't do that in Reaper. But fantastic DAW for audio editing. You can do slip editing, beat detective, anything you want. If you know scripting, you can create anything, any functionality that you want. It's amazing. That's for a certain set of people. And most of those people, Reaper may not be what you're looking for, because it's a tinkerer's DAW, in my opinion. Those people who have very weird needs, you can probably do it in Reaper. I tried Studio One, hated the way the editing worked. I just didn't like the interface. Went back to Reaper. I was like, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'll do all my MIDI in Cakewalk, and then I'll do all my recording in Reaper. Well, that's a real pain, because now you've separated your music in two different platforms.
Right.
You got to keep track of all that, and I've lost music already. There's a chunk of time when I was doing that where the files are gone. I don't know what happened to them. Poof, gone. And then finally, I went to Cubase, and there are things in Cubase I don't like, but I can do everything that I need to do in one ecosystem, which is what I wanted, so that it's all in one place.
And that's really what we're
So
getting
I'm going to
at.
get off the soapbox now.
No, you're fine. That's what we're here today to do, is just to try to help mitigate some of these questions that people are having, and answer some here that are in the chat, and really, like, what he's getting at, and what the whole point that we keep driving at here is basically like, find out which one's going to work for your specific needs, and then take your time to learn that, and don't jump ship. Like, learn it inside and out, backwards and forwards, so that you can get so proficient on it that when someone says, hey, I'd like a reverb throw on my vocal. Hey, I'd like this. Hey, can you do a sidechain compression on this? Like, automatically you can just, with a few, strokes of the hand and a few mouse clicks, you can get that done. Whereas, well, hold on, this is a new DAW, so let me go through here. And you don't want to do that if someone's, in the studio, and you especially don't want to do that if you have a mix project you're working on, and you have that possibility, like, Scott's just brought up, of possibly losing stuff. You don't want to do that for client work ever. You talk about never getting a client again. So,
bad news bears, man.
So along the same lines of the Cubase thing, so latency wise, what's Cubase like that you've seen? I mean, does it handle large amounts of plugins? And
dude, I can record guitar into Cubase having 2 instances of contact with, which would mean that one of them is full of 16 instruments with another one, and then MIDI drums, bass, all that stuff, and I can record into Cubase at using like a 64 size buffer. But I mean, my computer it's not bad anymore. I got a Ryzen 9 3900X. I've spent some money, okay? But I mean, it's pretty efficient. It's very fast. Because the one thing that still annoys me to this day about Cakewalk is if you scroll, it's like, it's not smooth. And you play, and the now time marker, literally it's like snapshots as it's playing. And then I think you understand what I mean. It's just not and then every once in a while it works like a smooth experience, and you're like, and then it goes back to, little millisecond slideshow. And if you have a big orchestral project, which I often do, and then you throw it in the piano roll in Cakewalk, good luck scrolling that one. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't, even if there's no instrument loaded, too many notes on the same page, that's Cakewalk. I can have as many notes as I want in Cubase, and I can just literally swipe it like this. Okay. Now, that experience might be different if your computer's a bit weaker or you're on a laptop, so please understand that. I have a computer for professional needs. I've spent way too much money on this thing, but it's what I need to do what I need to do on a daily basis. Now, the other thing that Rob said that's a very key point that I'd like to touch back on is that when he was mentioning people who use Cakewalk, they're all using it in a mobile capacity to write ideas down quickly, which is very important. And I have to say that it's pretty fast. Like, if you just take 5 minutes to create a songwriting template in Cakewalk, at the snap of a finger, you can have everything up with your guitar track already armed and ready to record, and you can be recording within seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't do that in Cubase because there's a couple of menus that you need to get into, and then everything loads, and it takes a second. But legitimately in Cubase, you can just go File, New from Template, Songwriting Template, bam, I'm recording my idea.
Yeah.
So that's powerful, right? So as an idea generator, it's fantastic, stuff like that. It's very important. And also the other thing, by the way, about Cakewalk, which is great, is that it has that modular interface. So you can hide, the multi-dock, the browser, the inspector, the control bar.
Mm-hmm.
You can hide all these things. So if you're working on a smaller laptop, you don't need to see the browser all the time. You can just hit B, browser's gone. You don't even need to see the multi-dock. D, multi-dock is gone. You're recording and you only need to see the inspector pane and the track pane. Boom, C, control panel gone. Now you have all this space, and that was actually one of the most innovative things that Cakewalk thought of when they went from 8.5.3 to X1. Just a shame that X1 was so terribly done that it took them 3 versions to get it before the interface worked. And by then, everyone had already basically incorporated their own idea of it, except Pro Tools, who would still use floating windows. unbelievable. It's not so bad when the monitors are bigger now, actually, to be fair. But back in the day, goodness gracious,
Yeah.
with your little, what is it, 17-inch monitor? That's a big monitor back then in 2006, Rob. 17-inch monitor. What is that, like that? Goodness. Um, so those are all big points that I really loved about the Cakewalk DAW. You know, being able to customize the view that I want to see, and then they overdid it. Now there's lenses, and I don't remember what the other snapshot. Like, what's the difference? You know, it's all now they've confused it. But those are all things that are really great in Cakewalk to help you through the songwriting process and even through the mixing process. You know, if that's what you need to do. And so I use Cubase visually in the same way that I like to use Cakewalk, you know, top down, left to right. I am all about it. Has to be like that. And that's why I can't super use Reaper all the time, because Reaper is basically the opposite. You can go top down, but then the master track, you know, you got to do all this manipulation to create your own Reaper setup so that it's the way that you want to have it. Yeah, it's cool that you can do that, but why do I need to do that?
Exactly.
You know,
And one thing that I would like to bring up here too is Scott is like a power MIDI user. Like this guy is in fact, like one of his courses is I think it's already released, or is it the one that's gonna soon be released? Is pretty much
well, the one before that, the Mixing Extreme Metal, was like a full orchestra of orchestra stuff. So
so.
MIDI stuff. I mean,
With that being said, like I am a more of a real instrument kind of guy. I don't get me wrong; I use MIDI a lot, especially from client work whenever they send me MIDI files and things like that. However, MIDI is not something that I dabble into too much. So that's why I haven't really ever seen that side of Cakewalk that he's talking about, where you've got all these MIDI tracks and I'm, you know, the first time he said that, I'm like, I've never really had that problem. But then I'm like, well, that's because I don't have an orchestra of metal guitars or, you know, orchestral
yeah,
instruments. Or so yet again, that's another, you know, selling point for you. Or if you're looking for a DAW, are you predominantly MIDI driven? If you're MIDI driven, then you might want to look elsewhere other than Cakewalk. If you're more of a real instrument kind of person and you only dabble in MIDI here and there and you just want to use it to sort of accentuate your mixes or your productions, then by all means, it's definitely a great tool there too. So
that's that. I think you really hit the nail on the head. That's probably, I think, so much frustration could be avoided if that was the first question that you ask someone if they ask you for DAW advice.
right,
What kind of music are you making? Uh, and how do you make your music? So if someone comes to me for DAW advice, they're like, "Hey Scott, what do you think of Reaper?" I would, I think the first thing that we should just start asking people now is like, "What kind of music are you making?"
right,
If they're saying, "Well, I'm making beats," we might want to look at Fruity Loops then, or FL Studio, or Ableton Live. Those are more sequence-based type workflows that are more geared towards that kind of stuff that you're trying to do. Yeah, you can use Cubase to do that too, but it's like overkill, you know, and you'll have to do more work to do something simple. On the flip side, what kind of music are you doing? Oh, I got this symphonic black metal thing that I'm working on. Okay, Reaper is probably going to be a good choice, actually. I was looking at FL Studio. No. Don't waste your time with FL Studio or Ableton Live. You're going to need a more sophisticated editing platform because you're going to have to do a lot more things, right? And the MIDI is going to need to be sufficient. English is just one of those languages sometimes. The MIDI editing is going to need to be sufficiently sophisticated. Got it.
boom,
So that you don't run into a roadblock, you know. And so once you understand what your needs are, it's just like when I talk about guitar tone mastery, you know, people want a guitar tone. Well, that's fine. Stop starting at the beginning of the chain. You start at the end of the chain and you work backwards. So sort of like, what DAW do I need? Well, you start at the result that you want to have and you work backwards to, you know, how you would get to where the result would be. So in Rob's case, if he's saying, well, I just, you know, two guitars, a bass, a vocal, and maybe some MIDI drums, Cakewalk is, it's going to be just fine. And it's maybe even more than he needs sometimes, to be honest, with all the pro channels and stuff in there, right? But if Rob's like, yeah, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, we quad check all the guitars, got 3 or 4 leads in there. I want to get like a string quartet and some horns. I'm going to be like, well, I mean, it should be okay. Because I'm already going to start imagining you having 16, 17 MIDI tracks opening the piano roll, and then you trying to zoom out and catch everything, and then you play it, and then you're trying to change the grid settings and everything. And I'm just going to be like, well, I mean, yeah, it could work. But
I will say that
yeah,
on projects that I've worked that are, heavily MIDI-fied, if that's even a word, we're just making up words. Who cares about the English language? We're just going to make up our own words.
English. Start speaking Russian. Who do I? Let's go. Alexei, these days?
I think
I
he
asked
just
if Alexei is here.
pieced out. Actually, he said he's going to
Nice.
watch it later, but he's got to go. But
All right.
good to have you, Alexi. Though appreciate you having you on here. Which, by the way,
мне жаль, что ты ушел.
if you guys
I'm saying
are,
that I'm sad that he left.
if you guys are into mixing metal music, by the way, check out Alexi's channel. He's got some great tutorials on there as well. And along those same lines, posting a link in the chat right now. Scott has already mentioned, just in passing here, this is not a publicity thing for either one of us. It just, wherever it fits naturally, of course, we're going to do that because we got to eat. But I've posted a link in the chat right now. If you would like to check out his guitar tone mastery course or his mixing extreme metal?
Yeah.
He has that available here at this link. This is a link to the Pro Mix Academy, or the Pro Mix, the Pro Mix Academy, where you can go and you can download the multi-tracks to the songs that you're working on. And I had a brief commercial about that here earlier. Definitely go and check that out because it's got a ton of stuff on there. One of my courses is on there for Cakewalk as well. And there's all kinds of great affordable courses on there. In fact, I just did a live mix a couple of live streams ago from one of the courses that is on there actually. And it was mixing a Nashville singer-songwriter. The song was absolutely amazing. And whenever we brought the tracks in, I think everybody's biggest thing, I think the biggest
thing. How good
they
sound.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that's what, and I say that a lot here on the channel. If you record great tracks with a great singer and you got a great arrangement and a great production, it really just kind of falls together and it makes your job a whole lot easier.
You're going to do a little bit of fader work, legitimately a dB or 2 of EQ here and there.
Right.
And you'll print it.
And everybody will go, wow, that sounds great. And you're just kind of like, yeah.
I did nothing.
I balanced the faders. Man, that was hard work.
Whew. I am breaking a sweat. Yeah.
Of course, when you got individuals, Reed Shippen was the one who put that course out there. When you got individuals like him who's been doing this in Nashville.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, that's good. Like, because I'll tell you what, the first time that I saw stems, and I thought I knew what good stems were, and then I actually saw what good stems were, I was like, dude, I am not even in the ballpark.
Right.
Dude, what am I doing? I gotta up my standards, And you can see what just basic microphone technique can do, or just basic understanding of the frequency curve of the mic and how the person's voice, and then you select the right microphone, and now your work is much easier in post. So there's something to be said about taking those tracks and not just mixing it. There's another thing that really annoys me sometimes. I'll get emails and questions like, "Hey man, I saw your video. I just don't quite get it." All right, try again. And don't rush it. It's not about getting the mix done as fast as you can. Get the multi-tracks, open them up. Make the waveform big. See what the transients look like. See what's happening. See how much noise is or is not in between a singer's vocal. Is it gated? Is it just silence? What's happening with the drums? What do the rooms sound like with the drums? What do the overheads sound like with the drums? How are they panned? How are they balanced? What do the toms sound like? This is actually where you really can learn the most when you analyze professional stems.
Mic
It's not
drop.
just about mixing them.
Yeah, that right there. I mean, you've basically just a paragraph. You've basically taught everybody what they should have learned in their paid for college course. Don't even get me started. Audio schools.
Dude, hey, I wasted. Listen, I wasted just as much time as everybody else did. Like I didn't wake up all knowing and all wise and just popped out ready to go. Absolutely not. I mean, and we were at a bit of a disadvantage because how was this? I was 18 in 2004. Digital mixing infancy. We still lived at the age where you wanted to get a proper recording, you were going to a studio,
right,
with a desk, right? So I've grown up with everyone else too in this particular digital age, I guess we'll call it, where things are way more possible and accessible. But now with the accessibility and the possibilities comes the over informational situation.
Right.
Where the basics that still apply have been somehow, construed into something complex. And I'm sorry, you might want to get your nugget thing ready because this one's going to hurt people, right? Complexity. Hold on, let me see if I can word this correctly.
English language again.
No, I just want to make sure I get this clean for your channel. Complexity appeals to stupid people. Let me just tell you what I mean. Because it's how we are as human beings in the hierarchy. Well, the doctor who's way up here should be smarter than the guy who's here, and so on and so forth, right? So if the doctor says something really, really complex, well, it sounds complex, therefore it must be smart. I will tell you from personal experience that if there's a simple way to do something with mixing, it's usually the right way. The moment you start overanalyzing and making things super complicated for no real good reason, it's over. Done.
There's your nugget of information.
So I say it like that to be blunt so people will listen to what I'm saying. Complexity appeals to stupid people. It's not some sort of a thing against people. It's just sometimes the answer, it's Occam's razor, right? If there's if there's two explanations for the same thing, you take the simplest explanation.
Right.
That's it. How do I make a good mix? You start with the basics. What does that mean? Balance, fader control, good source tone.
Yeah.
And you go from there. So trust me, I wasted many a time, mucho hours or English, on thinking I could come up with fantastic, reinvent the wheel. Let's do this, and the results are always terrible. Unnecessarily complex. So over the past 2 or 3 years, I have purposely going, okay, here's my result. Is there a simpler way to do this? Mm-hmm. Because simpler is faster and more efficient. I can get more work done, make more money.
Right.
Ring. Another nugget.
This daily nugget is brought to you by Scott Elliot.
Yeah.
I like what Bruce Brooks has put in the chat here. A lot of people might have missed this if you're not from the States, but he put in here KISS, and it's an acronym for Keep It Simple Stupid. I've heard that numerous times from the big wigs in the studio world, and we think, from the outside looking in, man, they're doing this like crazy black magic, like going in here and they know all this. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, yet again, it goes back to what he's just stated, what I've stated before. If you got great source material and you know how to get that great source material and you analyze your methods that you're using to get that source material every single time, it's going to make your job a whole lot easier. And I love what Scott's saying here about, like, don't just fly a track in and start moving faders and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. That's actually why I have on my website, I have a free download for a 15-step, which I'm sure it could be a lot more condensed, but I like the number 15 for some reason. But a 15-step mixing process where you literally can like pin it up on your desk and go, okay, I'm not touching anything else until I get past
Right.
this step. And it really helps you to just like focus in and hone in on what am I doing in this step? Why am I in this step? And what Scott has just said here, which was yet again another glorious nugget, was, analyzing, I'm going to overdo the button now, was analyzing every single step that you're taking. And when you bring in, the tracks from a professionally mixed or professionally tracked, artist,
There you
like
go.
for
Yeah.
instance, like even with the Reed Shipping course, as soon as I brought them in and you taste and see that the tracks are good, you start looking at these and you're like, oh my goodness, that's what an acoustic guitar track should sound like. That's what a bass
Right.
DI should sound like. Okay, I get it now. That's why I'm spending 15 hours on one track trying to beat it into submission to get it to fit in proper, and in all actuality, it was like, well, if you would have just, done this, this, and this, you could have saved yourself 15 hours of time. It's
But
just,
see, people don't want to do that. There's you posted a really good picture today on Facebook. You should, if you have the ability to put it on the stream, you should show that. How the decisions that people make.
mm-hmm,
Like Netflix for 2 hours, one more episode, learn something new, no time, that thing. Because when I saw that, I was like, that is brilliant. Because what you're talking about is like, if and I had this objection a lot, with Guitar Tone Master. They're like, well, I can just go on YouTube and there are plenty of free YouTube. Fine, go ahead. Go ahead. Waste all the time you want getting conflicting information, conflicting tips, and being lost in the sea of free tips and tricks. Or spend some money and most importantly, save time. Going straight to the guy who does it for a living every single day and makes money from it.
right.
It's going to be very rare that you're going to come across a video that's just like, that is amazing. That is incredible. No,
Right.
it's just rehash stuff over and over and over for content, for views. Okay. And when I finally stopped wasting my time, like as you showed in that video, in the graphic that you posted on your Facebook page, and I took my wallet out and I finally got serious about what I was trying to do, things changed overnight.
Right.
And that's the same thing, with Cakewalk or Pro Tools. It's really not Cakewalk versus Pro Tools. It's all about you understanding what you want to do, and then you go 100% into that. So if you understand that, no, I want to know how to edit audio. I want to be able to edit multi-track drums. I want to understand Beat Detective. I want to do this. Well, the Pro Tools is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you just be like, I just have some acoustic songs, I want to, pop up the DAW and write them down, record them so I don't forget it, just for funsies, lulls. Cakewalk is the way to go. So instead of trying to get some marketing pitch from someone like industry standard, what industry are you working in first and foremost? Are you planning to be a top 20 Billboard charter? I'm not. I almost said a bad word. I could not care. I couldn't care less. There we go. I got it finally. Stop myself. Sorry about that. So it always depends on what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, you want to go to the people who are getting the results that you want, and you go to them, and you pay them basically to help them, to help you out. Because here's another pro tip that a lot of people don't want to hear. I don't owe you anything. I don't have to spend any time with you. And if you do want to know what I'm doing, it's only fair and respectful to compensate me for my time.
Right.
Because all the tens and thousands of hours I've done it on my own for the last 11 years, I'm not going to give that away for free. That's crazy. That'd be like, hey, I need my sink fixed. I want to get the best plumber in town, but I don't want to pay him.
Yeah, they're going to
And
laugh
while he's
at you.
here, I want him to tell me everything that he's doing and draw it on a piece of paper so that if it happens again, I can do it myself.
Yeah, they're going to laugh at you.
Right. And so that's the biggest way. That is like the biggest shortcut. You can just time travel yourself. Just pay someone. Do your research. Go, okay, this is what I want. For example, like I'm working in metal, let's say, so I want to create really good guitar tones. This is a great time to use YouTube. Research who's making guitar tones, who's working in the industry. That's always a key point. If they're not working in the industry, move on to the next guy, or have not worked in the industry, move on. You want someone who's in the industry, been in it, working in it, and is connected to it. Do they offer any services? One-on-one coaching? Great. How much does an hour cost? Usually an hour coaching will be $50 to $70. So how much is it worth to you?
Right.
1 hour's time where you could ask any question you ever wanted to a professional who does it every single day, or 8 or 9 hours every day on YouTube, best EQ settings for brutal guitar tone.
Right. Yeah. If you want to fast track your way, you got to find a mentor. That's 9 times out of 10. That's what really, and I'm going to get on my fanboy kick again. Those of you that have been around here long enough, you know I'm a fanboy of Warren Hewitt. Okay. And there's a reason for that.
Warren.
When I was at a point where I knew, and that's another thing you have to realize when you get to that point too. You can't just be like, oh, I'm great and grand. You have to realize, okay, I've reached my potential. I've reached the peak, the pinnacle of where I can get on my own. I need some help. And when you get to that point, like he said, you find out, you do some research. There was 3 guys that I was really leaning towards. Okay. And yet again, I'm not affiliated with anybody, so I can just call them out, tell you exactly who they are, and give you my long and short of it. Okay. So the first guy that I reached out to, which was huge in the space at this time, was Graham Cochran from the Recording Revolution. Absolutely love Graham's spirit, love the way that he presented the material, and reached out to him, had him on the channel, did an interview with him, got to know him really well.
Nice.
However, I will say this about Graham. Graham is not so keen on, hey, let me take you under my wing, let me show you some stuff, unless you're going to go through a massive paywall. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
And
he's a marketer now.
Yeah, he is. In fact, his YouTube channel, not to bash, but his YouTube channel is not even ran by him anymore. And he's still getting subscribers by the day. He's got great individuals on there. He's got great content, not bashing the channel in the least bit. But what I am saying is, if you're looking for him as a mentor, all you're going to get is a email list and a, what do they call those things? Those marketing, a webinar. You're going to
get a landing page,
Yeah, you're going to get
my mentor group.
Right. A webinar.
For X amount of dollars a month, where he'll be with you for an hour a week.
Yeah.
And then you'll have 30 other people there.
Right. So,
is that worth it to you? Maybe, maybe not, right?
And that has worked for some individuals, and that's great. Like I said, not knocking that. I'm just saying that if you're looking for someone to take you under their wing and really show you some stuff and not hold anything back, Graham's probably not the best individual, especially as of right now, because he is so in the Graham Cochran LLC. The last time I actually just reached out to him again, my channel has grown, and he said his response was, and it actually wasn't his response, it was from his, the person who answers his email says, we don't have the bandwidth for another interview right now. Totally fine. Kind of a weird way to put it, but totally fine. I would have actually liked to have had a response right from him and said, man, I just don't have the time right now. Let's shoot for another, that would have been great. So the other individual that I was really leaning towards at that time was Joe Gilder of Home Studio Corner. Joe Gilder's got some excellent content again. But yet again, he's sort of behind this paywall. You got to be a part of, and him and Graham are kind of in cahoots together. So I understand that. But both of them are predominantly marketers. They're trying to make a living off of YouTube. Right. They're trying to make a living off of their pay sites and off of this and off of that. I get that. I totally get that, because they're not in the industry to the point where that's their full-time job.
Well, they're marketers. Their full-time job is marketing. They have courses,
yeah,
and they probably have helped people, but they've transitioned, to becoming e-business. So
right.
It's a totally different thing.
Right. And I will say, unequivocally, I will say that Graham and Joe both have helped me tremendously in the past, but just by learning some key concepts. I even had Joe on the show and interviewed him as well, and he was another great asset to the channel not too long ago. Yet again, just reached out to him recently. Sorry, I don't have time for that. Now, I'm not bashing them because they don't have time to come back on my show and let me parade them around and show that I know them, but because it's not a dog and pony show around here. But what I will say is Warren Hewart, when I reached out to him, he answered me personally. Yep. He followed up and said, hey, were you still interested in joining the Produce Like a Pro Academy? I wasn't beating down his door because I knew the guy was busy. He kept getting a hold of me personally. And then he said, in a nice way, I'm going to put you through to Eric, who handles a lot of this stuff. If you ever need me, reach out. And he has every single time. This guy is 12,000 times more busy than some of these other online mentors. And yet he takes the time, even if it's just 5 minutes on Instagram, to like something. Hey, you're doing a great job. Yep. Keep it up. To the point where it's come into this, where he actually has kind of taken me under his wing. And the thing about him is he does not hold anything back. There's no, you've got a paywall. Obviously he has to make money, like he just said, for his time, but $10 a month versus you got to join a mastermind course for $30,000 for 3 hours. If you get in my mastermind group, I'll show you how to build your business in 3 days and you'll make $10,000 a month. And it's like, what's this got to do with audio anymore? I don't understand.
Can I make hand gestures on this stream, or am I also forbidden to make hand gestures?
I don't have a blur. I don't have a blur out. So
well, just figure it out. But I mean,
that being said, I'm going to get off my fanboy kick for Warren, but if you're looking for a good online mentor, like he's just said, find someone who's in the industry. Warren has been in the industry for years. He knows the inner workings of it. He's not going to give you a bunch of BS. He's not going to try to get you through some sort of a mastermind group. And if he does, I guarantee you it's going to be worth it. I'm not saying that he won't ever do that, but it will be worth it. He's not going to give you some ethereal tips that will kind of help to get you there, but you have to keep paying more to get to the inner circle, which is where these other guys are kind of, it's an oligarchy sort of pyramid scheme, just to be honest. I'll just say it. Not with Warren. What? You're going to get straight access to a man who knows what he's talking about. You're going to get access to a community of individuals who are awesome, who are willing to help. One of them actually is in the chat here, Chris Knowles. Good to have you, buddy. And
what's up, Chris?
You are going to get some excellent tips, tricks, tutorials, and most of which he gives away for free on his YouTube channel. So, all right, I'm off my kick. I'm off my Warren kick here.
No, I like it. Continue. It's awesome. I'm going to start getting some war music going on.
Dun, 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 dun.
And the next thing, you get a car. You get a car. Wait, wrong show.
I think the only war music I've got programmed in here is this. Hold on. Not too war-y.
I mean, that's the happiest war music I ever heard, but we'll take it. Nice. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I got a full-blown show going on here. So one of the last things that I'd like to bring up about this whole, and really it's just turned into which DAW is best for me kind of conversation, but back to the Cakewalk versus Pro Tools thing. And this is where the element of divide, I think, comes in and leans more heavily towards Pro Tools, is how much support are you looking into getting when it comes from Pro Tools versus Cakewalk. Now, I haven't seen the Pro Tools side of things, but I know on Cakewalk side of things, I'll just go ahead and jump in and give you your answer. You're not going to get any. The only support you're going to get in Cakewalk...
It just won't be from Cakewalk. It'll be from all the boomers on the forum.
Exactly. If you go to the forum, you're going to get a little bit of help. A little bit. If you find out...
Condescendingly.
Yeah, sometimes, yes. It's more like it's not gear sluts anymore. What is it? Gear chicks or something now?
It's gear sluts, because they can literally just take a walk with that nonsense.
Yeah, well, gear space, whatever it is now.
That's what it is, a gear space.
Yeah, they've changed it now. But used to, I mean, you would get on there and just get completely slayed.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you ask a question. And it's kind of that way on the Cakewalk forum. It's gotten better, to be honest. But it's still sort of, you ask a question and you get sort of okay answers. So with Cakewalk, you're going to get that. Now, that's the main reason why I made this a predominantly Cakewalk channel. I do music production in a wide variety of DAWs. I still have Audacity loaded which is another free DAW. I've used Acid Music Studio. I've used Magic's Music Studio, all the cheaper paid
God,
for versions.
Acid. Oh man.
Brings back memories, don't it?
Oh man. 2002. Good old Acid.
But with all of that being said, unless you find channels like this one here, there's some other channels out there that are willing to help you. You're not going to find a lot of support with Cakewalk. So what's the width and the breadth of the Pro Tools side of things? Is there a good support
Well,
system?
obviously it's more sophisticated. They have a entire website knowledge base. And you can contact their support. You will get answers. Like when I was getting my NFR for doing what I'm going to be doing here, there was a big email chain, and like 3 different people from Pro Tools were writing me, "Hey, if you got any questions, go here. If you need help, click on this." And they're like, they even copy pasted me installation instructions in the email itself with links, with pictures of what to do if A, B, C, or D happens. I mean, great, right? That's the whole point. And that's what needs to happen now. Like there's no reason why you cannot have an interactive manual or support knowledge base at this point in time. And to this day, the Cakewalk user was essentially the Cakewalk support service. And that's not cool, because the person should be compensated somehow for that. I think Cakewalk by BandLab are sort of taking advantage of the community in that essence, where they know there are a lot of people that have used it for so long that they can sort of just, ride the backs of these people who know what they're doing through trial and error and are kind enough to help other people. But there should literally just be an onboarding 10-week beginner course, official, where you download it, install, and you go. And this should all exist, right? I shouldn't have to go to a forum and hope I don't get flamed to death over a question that is, wow, man, that's such a silly, stupid question. It's so easy. Are you blind?
Yeah.
Kind of answer,
mm-hmm.
which does nothing for both Cakewalk and for the community. I know one person, very famous guitar player for a death metal band, who used to use Cakewalk. And he actually went to Cubase, which was one of the reasons why I tried Cubase. And I ended up liking it as well. And then other than that, there was another guy in Spain who was a professional metal producer that used Cakewalk, but used Pro Tools to edit drums. So back in the day when Gibson had it, it was all about what other features can be added to the DAW, which was the complete backwards mindset. Because computers got faster, you should be able to do things more efficiently. Multi-core optimization, like you were talking about earlier with plugins, that's all important stuff. Because the libraries are getting larger, the plugins are becoming more complicated.
Right.
So we need the extra power. But support is a really big key issue. Excuse me, sorry. And I do think that, if you were to begin with Avid, you would start with a larger knowledge base online that you could access and be up and running faster. But I know there are, I think, a couple of Pro Tools courses in ProMix Academy. There's a Reaper course. There's your Cakewalk course. So, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter anymore, whichever DAW you go with, as long as you know where you're looking to learn how to do what you need to do.
Well, and 9 times out of 10, too, what I've seen is the support that you're going to get from, the actual company itself is more based around, it's not working well with my computer. It's not working well with this program. It's more of like an IT tech support. Whereas if you try to ask like, hey, how do I get a great guitar tone? They're not going to answer that. So,
right.
But it looks like user serving my Jesus says, I have had a great support from Cakewalk just last month. They even done follow-ups to make sure that everything was all right. Dude, that's awesome. Hopefully they're starting to turn that
Finally,
around. So that's good
you
to
are.
hear.
Let me just say that in my experience over the last 20 years, you are the exception to the rule.
And so here's how far it's actually gone. And I'll just, I have another question here. Are you in contact with BandLab? Yes, I've been in contact with BandLab for the past several months. In fact, when I released my Cakewalk by BandLab course on Warren's, the ProMix Academy, I reached out to Noel Borthwick,
Yep.
who's
Noel, good old Noel.
he's always been sort of like the head of operations, and I pasted the course in there and said, hey, and go and check this out. I'm doing my best to get this out there. His response was, wow, that's a great job, appreciate it, and stay in touch. So I thought, okay, that might turn into something cool. I've reached out since then to about 6 or 7 different people in the BandLab on LinkedIn. So I've actually done it through a professional venue here, and have given them my media kit, told them this is what I can provide, this is what I have to offer. I'm already been championing this DAW now for over 20 years. I've got lots of people that I'm helping out daily. No response. I mean, literally, it's crickets. So, and I'm not saying that I feel like I deserve it or I need to be compensated or I'm not getting that mindset. But what I am saying is, if you've got someone that's actively already pursuing doing what you need to be doing yourself, then at least have the common courtesy to respond with a thank you for, loving thank you for your loyalty, at least. So their response, in response to that, was this. Right after I said, hey, I've got this video course, I've got this huge playlist on my YouTube channel that, it's got over 40,000 views on just one of the first videos that I sent them. I said, I'm really doing my best to get this out there. Their response was they finally, after I forget how many years, fired up their YouTube channel again, and they posted a video with no sound. Absolutely no sound, showing off some of the key features of Cakewalk that I've been showing off for the last 10, 15 years. To which case I was kind of like, wow, that's weird. Why would they fire up their YouTube channel all of a sudden? Oh, someone's getting traction for us. Maybe we can start firing that YouTube channel up again, and maybe we can start getting some income from that because we're not selling this anymore. I don't know. There just seems like there's a lot of shady stuff going on behind the scenes, and I've asked Scott here before. I've asked him because he's been in contact with BandLab before. How in the world can they afford to pay for like 16 different administrative positions when it's a free DAW and I don't see any advertising on it? And I still can't wrap my head around it. So I don't know where the money's coming from or how they're getting it. But it wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be so put out by it if I could at least get just a response from some of the leads and just say, hey, we appreciate what you're doing at least. So.
My experience is quite similar. But I mean, I wasn't very, I didn't really pursue it as aggressively as you did. I mean, when I saw what was happening, I just stopped. This was right after they acquired Cakewalk. I was like, oh, I need to find their media email, and I jumped on it immediately. And I was like, here's the deal. And this was 2017, something like that. Yeah. And I made the claim that, like, aside from the official Cakewalk channel, I am the foremost source for Cakewalk videos at the time. This is at the time, guys. It's clearly not the case anymore. I think we need to continue doing this. I already was being paid by Gibson to do official Cakewalk videos. I believe this needs to continue because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Let's do this. Get an email response back going, oh, we would love to talk with you. Scheduled a date to talk on the phone, Skype, which we did. I don't really remember the details of the Skype call anymore, but I just remember getting the feeling like it's going to be like this. All right. Because I was really excited. I was talking about it to my wife. I'm like, this could really be cool because maybe I could finally pivot out of getting out of the office, which I hate being at, and working more in the music, which is what I want to do, and it just came out to nothing. Because once the topic of money came up, yeah, the conversation shriveled up pretty quick. And I just feel like, in your case, if a guy like Home Studio Simplified is literally doing all the things that we need, I mean, you could really be underhanded with it. You could just contact him and be like, "Hey, Rob, we love what you're doing. Listen, we would love to offer you," and just like do a low ball on you per video, three to four videos a month. Start immediately, right? And if I think Rob's much more business savvy than that, so he would start negotiating. But a lot of people would be like, "Dude, I get to make $200 a video for oh, dude, I'm totally doing it." So they're already taking advantage of you and your audience and paying you like less than half what you actually should get per video, right? But they don't even do that. I don't know what they're doing, man. I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand. I see it up. Cakewalk gets updated periodically. Cool, great, fine. But I don't know what the end game is. I don't know what they're really trying to accomplish. I keep it installed on my computer, partly for nostalgia purposes, because it's weird if I don't have Cakewalk on my computer. I don't open it. I don't do anything in it anymore, but it's there.
So with that being said, guys, don't let this thwart you from going out and downloading Cakewalk. It's still an excellent DAW.
You
It
have to
still
try
has everything that you are going to need to get up and running. What I am saying is, if you're looking for support, this channel is here. There's other channels that do the same thing. If maybe you don't like, the fact that I wear a hat sometimes, or the fact that I
Terrible.
am not wearing pants right. I mean, wait a minute. No.
Yeah. Wait, no. We got to do the Charles Barkley impression. That's terrible. The hat is terrible. There we go.
With that being said,
I love the way he says that. It's hilarious.
You guys just find what DAW is going to work best for you based off of the needs that you have. And you need to change the name of your channel. Today's home studio is now the Pro Studio. Oh. That's kind of the case, honestly. There's professional mixes and masters all day long being made out of home studios. So
it doesn't matter anymore, really. Your intro says it perfectly. You can make great quality stuff in non-great rooms. Sometimes it might be, what just happened? You appeared on my Skype.
Hey, how's it going?
Finally. That's incredible.
Speaking of programs not working right.
Just right in time when we needed it the most. I just wanted to, I saw the question in chat here and it's bothering me because I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, there we go. It's okay. Mob, the gamer, changed Cakewalk's view into bars to produce beats. I think that's the Matrix view is what you're looking for.
Yes. Yeah, I was actually just getting ready to address that. It's awesome you brought that up.
And it's Alt-5. And then Control or Shift D, the Matrix view is make big, and there you go.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the chat real quick. Alt-5 and then Shift D.
Shift. There's an F in there, guys.
Shane, it was good having you, buddy. You can always come back and watch the rest of this later, too. It's going to be up for forever. So, good having you, though. Great questions.
Until he puts a paywall up.
Right. Next week, the only way you'll have access to this information is by joining my mastermind group. For just 5 easy payments of $19.95. Yeah.
Plus tax.
Yeah, and if you're out of state, out of mind, you're going to have to pay more for that, too. So.
Yeah, the Matrix view, which I have basically no experience in because I programmed everything in Midi in the piano roll. So
it does have
I actually can't help with that.
I have definitely tackled that a time or two, and it definitely has some awesome potential, especially for what you're doing. I know some of his music is based around a lot of loop-based type things. It definitely has some potential for that. So another good option too is just to use your track view, and if you hold Control and press D, you can actually take a 4-bar section and it automatically copies it to the next 4 bars. And if you want
Nice.
to loop it that way, you can do that as well. So
That's cool. Yeah. See, I mean, that's sort of another thing too. Like back in the day, just Cakewalk tried to do everything, but when you try to do everything, you do nothing well. Because Cakewalk 8.5.3, people were just like, "This is amazing." Audio snap and all that stuff was so great. Fantastic DAW. Also looked cool. And then X1 came out.
yeah. Now I will say though, the entire score for Call of Duty was made on X1 when the game first came out.
Man,
I'm sure they
peace
were
be with
banging
them.
their heads against their desks, probably going, "Hurry up and update this thing."
Why did we do this? Why did we do this? Yeah, but
That's
yeah,
probably why they publicized
yeah,
it, because they wanted the bragging rights. We did this on X1.
well, no one. I mean, not only does the game suck, you used no, you used a terrible DAW. No, but no, it legitimately took 3 versions before they finally fixed the interface and it worked normally.
I will say that from all of the versions that I grew up with, and I started out with Cakewalk Sonar Artist and just kept going through there until I was like, okay, I want to do this for real. I'm buying Platinum.
Mm-hmm.
6 months later, they sold out. I was like, I just spent 400.
Yeah.
It was like $4.99 on Platinum, and now it's free. Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for the compensation. But with that being said,
Oh,
I
dude,
will
I
say
was
that.
I was there when they did the lifetime updates
Yeah.
cash grab, which I paid for.
Yeah, I did
Because
that
I'm
too.
silly.
I did that too. With that being said, though, Cakewalk by BandLab, now as it is in its current state, is probably the most stable that it's ever been.
Hands down.
And
Hands down.
it's also the most powerful, I think, that it's ever been. And
Yep.
hopefully,
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. They've improved on it. I mean, that's not the argument, but there are still major issues that have to be fixed that I don't know if they
Right.
can be fixed without a complete and total refactoring of just how the code works. You know, if they came out with an update and they said multi-track drum editing is fixed, I would test that. And I would know if it's fixed or not. But in order for that to work, audio snap would have to be fixed.
Right.
You ever tried audio snapping anything, Rob?
It's not the most pleasant of things.
What do you mean? What's wrong with snapping in the middle of the transient? I love getting pops every time I do a splice, Rob. Come on. You know, it worked in 8.5. Why can't it work now?
Yeah. They definitely have some work to do, but at least they're still trying to do the work, though. I will give them that, even though they're not paying anybody or.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
I don't know.
So maybe we're all gonna feel silly when they finally come out with their idea, and we're gonna be like, "Wow, we were getting ahead of ourselves on that one."
We've been
But the
building
more
this
they wait,
idea.
the more people will forget about Cakewalk because new technology is coming out.
Oh yeah, it's by leaps and bounds every day. It's
They have the original toolbar from Cakewalk Pro Audio. That's the toolbar of today. They still have cal scripts. Why? Either implement a plugin, which people did third-party proprietary because the cal scripts are silly. It was like Jack's Midi plugin. I don't remember the name of it, but it was for Cubase and for Cakewalk, and that's what people used because cal scripts. It's like, again, complexity applies to stupid people. So here comes the super simple plugin that does what these cal scripts are supposed to do. Oh, I know what I want to do, Rob. I want to learn a completely new programming language so that I can randomize my velocity. That's what I want to do.
Right. Instead of just building it under the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are plugins for that, but they're weird. You load up the plugin, and then it's not like real time. You got to click apply and then look at it and be like, no, that's not what I want to do. Control Z, adjust the parameter again, click apply. Oh, dang it. It's still not quite what I want. It's a time waster. While in Reaper, for example, you slide the slider and you watch things just go. And you can understand what you need to do. So it's a one-time, one click, and you're done. You know, Reaper, great MIDI editing in that respect, right? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's what this is all about. And I'm hoping that people are seeing as they've been watching today that neither one of us are like leaning more towards one or the other. We're basically just giving the arguments, the key points. That's the good and the bad and the ugly, honestly. So, John Kasanga, he has a question here. He says, I have a problem with Cakewalk for some reason. When I press the space bar, it takes like 4 seconds before playing. How can I fix this? That sounds like your buffer settings.
Yep.
You just need to go into your preferences menu and then set your buffer settings to a lower buffer setting. And then that should take off almost immediately.
Is it reversed in Cakewalk? Hold on. I don't remember. P preferences. Oh yeah, you would be right. I keep forgetting about that. Yeah, usually buffer setting 512 is usually pretty good for mixing. Pretty solid, average. For recording, you go as low as you can go without getting into digital artifacts, and then you go on from there. That's general rule of thumb. And if you don't have an audio interface, you need the ASIO wrapper, and then apply the same logic after that, but the performance will be much worse. Or you can use the Wasabi drivers, which I love how Cakewalk was like, dude, just use the Wasabi drivers, man. Dude, Wasabi, man. First of all, it's named Wasabi. So every time I say it, it's like, Wasabi? And no, it's never a good idea to use your inbuilt sound card drivers to do any type of audio work at all. Anyway, soapbox is getting really heavy.
So he says even at the lowest buffering setting, it still does that. That might be an issue then where I would try to, it probably depends a lot on your computer that you're using. I know a lot of times slower computers will have a tendency to do that.
Here's the million dollar question is how many VST instruments are you using and streaming all at the same time?
Yeah. Obviously, the more stuff that you're running through, it is going to even my computer, which is yet again, like Scott said, is a professional computer built just for audio. I get 60 tracks in there. It's not going, hey guys, let's go. It's like, hold on a minute.
There's going to be a couple seconds. So if you have, for example, like only 8 or 12 or 16 gigs of RAM and a moderate CPU, and you got program drums, maybe a VST bass, amp simulators, it's going to take a second for your session to start playing.
Right.
So the way to solve that, like if that's happening no matter what you do, is you need to bounce out your VSTs. So just bounce stems of your drums. So just like in Cakewalk, it's actually Cakewalk this is a really great feature of Cakewalk actually. You can bounce the stems right from the track pane, not the file pane, the track file pane, which is below that. You go bounce. I think it's bounce to tracks. You can select which tracks you want to bounce. Make sure you click the actual instrument itself as well. Boom, bounces them right into the session down below. Just drag them right up into the audio tracks that you have. Delete the ones that were created when they were imported. Remove the VST, and boom. Now you've freed up a lot of RAM. And I'm suspecting it's a RAM issue.
Yeah.
So if you got 12 and 16 gigs isn't a lot of RAM anymore. Minimum 32 is necessary these days if you're doing any kind of stuff. Contact instruments especially.
Herky Acuff also brought up a good point too. Cakewalk has an ability to actually freeze tracks. And it essentially just bounces the track in that same state and just sort of creates an audio version of your MIDI if it's there.
Yep.
And
it's a fantastic thing to use. It's
Yeah,
right. It's like it's basically like what I just explained, but you don't have to go through the process of bouncing. You can just go, you
right.
freeze it. Yeah, that's a great feature.
So with that being said, any last minute questions in the chat about either Pro Tools or Cakewalk or DAW? It doesn't even have to be about DAWs for that matter. Just any last minute questions in the chat that you'd like for me and Scott to answer. Shoot those in the chat real quick, and then we're going to do something that we always do around here while we're waiting on those to come in, and then we'll get Scott get on his merry way. I'm sure he's got a ton of stuff to do.
I did a bunch of stuff yesterday, so
Awesome.
today I'll just have a live stream. I'm working on a new spec project.
Good deal. Good deal. So without further ado, let's go ahead and turn this over to Casey Kasem.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Casey Kasem bringing you the Wheel of Awesomeness. That's right, we're going to spin the wheel. Whatever the wheel lands on dictates what we're going to do.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate you coming on the show again. I know I fired you a couple of shows ago. I apologize about that. But they told me to bring you back on. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel, see where it lands. And it's being extra slow today. A favorite. Good deal. So in the chat section, if you would like to implement, tell us what was your favorite tip, trick, what was your favorite key point that you learned from today's chat that we've had here with this insanely talented gentleman.
Oh, come on now.
Drop that in the drop that in the chat section. What key takeaway did you learn from today's discussion, or was it just a bass session that you decided to jump in on and get in there? And I don't feel like it was that. I think we actually addressed quite a bit of the major concerns that people had, and then also I think we've helped. I know there was a couple of people in the chat that said, thanks to your tips that you've given me today, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump in and download Cakewalk. So good deal.
Yeah, give it a shot. Absolutely.
The key point from Chris Knowles was Scott hates boomers. Mob the Gamer says the Matrix view. Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. Hello,
Hate boomers.
Ole says, do you mix and master for pay? Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get a hold of
Let
either.
me preface this with Chris. I hate boomers that are a specific type of personality, namely gamma males. They absolutely rub me the wrong way. I despise gamma males, and they're the know-it-alls, the ones who always got to leave a comment like, well, I mean, I guess you could have, and that unfortunately explains many of the people at the Cakewalk forums. Just want to preface that. I mean, my dad's a boomer, okay? I mean, my grandma's boomer. Goodness.
Right. So, hello, Ola. If you want to get a hold of either me or Scott for mixing or mastering services, we both do have a website. You can go and check that out.
Definitely hit up Rob. That dude is the man.
Really? Here, I'm trying to give you some shameless promotion.
Look at that
You're
guy.
not even
No one can wear a hat like Rob. Look at that.
You know what?
Oh, crap. Put the hat
Now
back on.
Here we go.
No. Actually, all right. That's it. I'm out of here. It's been fun. Never again.
But yeah, if you want to hit us up, we're on all the socials. You can check us out. Our rates are, I'm sure, very competitive, and you're going to get some awesome stuff with either one of us. He also says that we have support from Cakewalk supporters. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for. And Scott does still help out individuals with Cakewalk, too, if they're working in metal.
I get tons of questions every month about Cakewalk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. I did all this content for so many years, and then I just stopped. But YouTube is still recommending my videos all the time. And I'm just going to start sending them. I'm just going to start sending them to you, Rob. That's it. Or I'm just going to link them your course, because like I don't work in the DAW anymore, man. You know, like a lot of these updates, either I don't even know that they happened, or I haven't worked and I have any experience. So it might actually be that some of the things that I don't like about it are fixed. I have no idea. But I can't do what I used to do in the past,
Right.
which I'm gonna have to do with Pro Tools, which is record and mix a song in the DAW, so that I understand the workflow and how things work. Right? I can't. I probably could, to be honest with you, but I mean, do I really wanna?
So Jurgen says his key takeaway was don't jump around, learn what you see, what you use. Yeah, that's a good key takeaway.
Yep.
Definitely.
Always analyze what you're doing. Like if you're opening Cakewalk and you realize, for example, like this guy, he wants to make beats. Open up Google. Can you make beats in Cakewalk? What is the best way to make beats in Cakewalk?
Absolutely.
Matrix view. And now you're not going to waste your time trying to do it with Midi. God forbid Midi. And then trying to convert it, and you're just going to go, oh, okay, I need to use the matrix view. So I right-click, insert an audio link or whatever, and whatnot, and there it is right there. So try to, again, reverse engineer what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Let's see. Another key takeaway we got here was, key takeaway is from Joe Majors, there's a lot of hate towards BandLab from two pioneers of Cakewalk.
Well, it's more or less, actually, it's not hate. I think I would propose, and maybe Rob would agree with me, that it's massive disappointment.
It is.
Massive disappointment.
It is. Yeah, I don't hate BandLab. If anything, I love them to death because they saved my favorite DAW on the planet. If it wasn't for them, I got to give them total credit. They stepped in at a time when we all thought, Scott included, that it was over. There's going to be no more support. Gibson did not give us any kind of, hey, by the way, guys, you might want to start saving stuff because we're getting ready to drop it. No, they just come out. We got logged on one day to check for our updates, and it was like, what happened? And Gibson, they sent us out an email, Cakewalk did, and said, by the way, Gibson's completely dropped it. We have no more support offering, and, sayonara. Have a good day. And
pretty much like that. I mean, people would be like, oh, come on. No, that was, I only knew a week beforehand because I knew Seth. He texted me when I was on vacation in Russia, and he's like, yeah, we're done. Lights are off. It was like Thursday. I'm like, okay, have a good day. See you Monday. He's like, no, lights are off. We're done. But it doesn't become official until next week. They don't tell anybody. And I'm just sitting there going,
right. What? Yeah, I was dumbfounded. Like I said, I just purchased Sonar Platinum, so I was like, well, they're moving on up. We're still getting updates rolling out. This is great. And then that happened. And shortly thereafter, actually the next day, I started a hashtag campaign, Save Cakewalk, and started posting on all the major forums and said, can you guys please help me spread the word? Started a Twitter storm and actually got trending for a while, Save Cakewalk. And shortly after that, BandLab came on the scene and said, hey guys, we're purchasing it and we're going to make it free for everybody. And I was like,
and then you were like,
what?
Yeah. Why would you do that?
For $1 million.
Yeah.
No, but definitely don't let the key takeaway here be that either one of us hate.
No,
BandLab.
It's like we're totally myself. Like I was like super sad. I was angry when I got the text from Seth. I was really angry. And then the disappointment happened when I was interacting with BandLab. I mean, I can only say what happened. You know what I mean? I still got the emails. I could probably dig them up if I really wanted to. But that's what happened. And I don't know what's happening. They're clearly working on it, obviously. But I mean, there are people on the BandLab team who were on the Cakewalk team under Gibson, and it seems to still have the same things happening to it. So I don't know. Is it really going to change? No idea. But I mean, it can't last forever. Nothing free lasts forever. I'm sorry, guys. You just can't. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I mean, there's only so much goodwill until the person who's doing it for free goes, you know what? Beep this. I don't have any time for this anymore. So maybe because BandLab, they have some other programs or some other services. The BandLab online DAW or something like that. I don't really know. So maybe or maybe they have investors. I have no idea. But,
yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah. But I was not I did not react positively when they were making BandLab free. I was like, like that classic, like the black lady, like what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, see, like some people who've never been around black people before, they're gonna be like, what does that mean? They just have a specific
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? So that was my reaction. But yeah, what was your reaction actually? So what happened to you? Besides this hashtag and you got proactive, but I mean, did it ever occur to you like I'm gonna move to a different DAW or I'm gonna start looking, or were you just like, this is what I'm doing now?
Yeah, my initial inclination, because I have been reared up in this DAW, was all right, I'm going online right now, and I downloaded all of my source files, and I thought, forget it. It's pretty stable right now. I'll just keep all of my installation files and I'll just use it as it is for the next 20 years and say, forget it. I don't need my updates. And hoping, I was even half tempted. I was like, well, I'll just keep it on a computer that never goes online. It'll just be an offline computer only for recording, and maybe that'll solve my problems. But yeah, when they picked it back up and I was angry. I was upset. I was disappointed. I'm at a place right now where I'm just more indifferent. It's not that I hate them or hate the company.
That's a really good way to put it, actually. It's like, hey, BandLab updated it. All right.
Yeah. It's like, what'll happen next? So,
right.
Mob the Gamer wants to know if you've ever worked on a hip hop track, Scott.
No. I listen, I'm going to be 36 years old and I suffered through the 90s. I'm all hip hopped out.
I actually just worked on a hip hop track with a artist in Canada by the name of Adam Mental, who's got some really cool stuff that's coming out soon. So
let me preface what I mean by that. I like some of the early 90s stuff when it was actually music. This stuff now where I don't know what you would even call it anymore. It's just like, I don't know what it is, Rob. Maybe you can actually tell me what all this means. So when I think of hip hop, I'm thinking late 80s, early 90s. There are musical melodies and they're singing, and then they have like the rap section, right?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of, right? And then in the late 90s, we had this egregious nonsense like the thong song and all this other silly stuff that was just garbage. And then obviously what's popular music now is even worse than that 10 times more. So what is hip hop?
What it was is not what it is. And to go back to the it is what it is. It is what it is.
So literally, if like, for example, because I just want to know, I'm not, by the way, I'm not making fun of the guy who asked. I'm not at all in the hip hop world, right? I just don't know. I'm totally ignorant. So if, for example, if I literally opened up Cakewalk and I just went to the matrix view and I make a beat and I put a bass drop on it, am I already making hip hop?
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area because it seems like, even country, for instance, right now has got bass drops. So
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I almost said the F word there because that really took me by surprise.
Yeah.
But I stopped myself for you, Rob. Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everyone in chat, we need to do a collective.
The first time I heard it, I was, of all places, in a Dollar General. And
wow, come on, Rob.
In a
I mean,
small
that would be
southern
the place
town.
to hear it.
In a small southern town just south of me. And they had a country song, which I was trying to even, being a musician, I'm sure you guys know how it is. You walk into a store and the first thing you hear is the music and you start picking it apart. Oh, listen to the syncopation of that beat. Wow, listen to this guitar tone that I'm listening to over these junk speakers. The next thing you hear is like, I'm trying to pit apart, like, is this rock or is it country? And then as soon as the guy starts singing, I'm like, I'm like, yeah, that's country. Okay, cool. It's just a rockier country song. And then I hear, and I was like, what just happened? Like when I was growing up, like that happened in raves And so, like at a rave, when the bass drop would hit, that's when everybody really got down to the nitty gritty and started,
Dude, the part's coming. The part's
here it
coming. The
comes.
bass drum is
Wait
coming.
for it. Wait for it. And now I'm like, what happens?
Snare roll.
What happens in a country song when the bass drops? Like, do they throw their hats in the air? They're like, put another dip of skull in, boys. I'm not sure what happens.
That is so funny, dude.
But see, with the question, like, what is hip hop? It's like, what is country anymore? For that matter,
I'll tell you what country is. Country is the Grand Ole Opry from the 30s and 40s that my dad grew up listening to and showed me. That's country.
Right.
And I like that stuff. That's cool to watch. There are videos online of the Grand Ole Opry. You can go and watch them. And the musicianship of some of these dudes, ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Oh,
like playing the fiddle and the acoustic guitar.
Oh, yeah. And singing
absolutely
crazy
ridiculous.
Harmonies.
Can't string a sentence together and maybe are missing a lot of teeth, but ridiculous on the guitar. I know I just threw away a lot of stereotypes there, and now people are going to like, how dare you? I'm just making... Guys, I have no front teeth. So... But I mean, no, serious. That's country. Like the white Appalachian country music scene, all that stuff. Basically, that's country music. And then like Garth Brooks, that's just rock and roll with a country drawl vocal.
H. Scott.
Dude, 90s was a terrible time for music.
So H. Scott says, "Good day. This is for Scott. Scott for Scott.
No.
Have you
Let me see.
Have you offered to be a consultant to BandLab because I think your wealth of knowledge could move Cakewalk forward into the future?"
Sure have, sir, but they prefer to have Craig Anderton.
Don't get me started. Don't even get me started.
No, that's what I meant with the disappointment. Like, we were on an email chain we had. I even just made the pitch. I was like, listen, I've made the videos. People know who I am. I make official videos, put it on the Gibson channel. You go to the official channel today, and you will see and hear videos that I did years ago for them that they paid me for. Crickets. And that's just like, I just thought that was perfect. I just felt really disrespected by that, and like I wasn't taken serious, so I just stopped pursuing even the idea of it. And that might be why I so aggressively trying to find a different DAW, because I was like offended, so immature. Like, well, fine, I'm just making it. But that's silly.
I'm going to be saving these little parts for some kind of montage later.
Oh, God. It's just going to be a montage of...
Presenting Scott.
And but I mean, at the end of the day, though, I really wish that they would spend more time promoting their brand. Because I've done one-on-one coaching calls with plenty of people who are using Cakewalk, and all they want to do is record... Get the beep ready. There.
I don't have a beep.
Just make a beep sound.
Beep.
Idea. Okay? That's all they want to do. And it's sad that they have to pay me $50 an hour to show them how to set up a track for recording. That's silly. And that does not speak to anyone's like, oh, they're just so dumb that they can't figure it out. No. You got, listen, if you put a cell phone in front of my face, I'm silly with it. I don't use cell phones, so I'm like, my daughter, who's 2, is going to be like,
right.
And I'll be like, thanks. Okay? So everyone's got their own learning curve in their own little certain way. So if you got a guy who's 42, who's played guitar his entire life, and finally wants to record some of his ideas, you got to understand there's a learning curve there. Like, you get him one of those USB micro interfaces so that he can plug it into the computer, which is probably a laptop. So then you got to explain what inputs and outputs are. This is all stuff that BandLab could just be crushing it with.
Right.
Because all the guy would have to do he's got the instrument cable. He would maybe have to spend $100 on a decent interface. Most guys at the age of 42 have $100 that they can spend something on. And BandLab could partner with one of these. You can just hear I'm getting angry. They could partner with one of these, with these people And it would be a symbiotic relationship where they're selling interfaces, you're getting people into Cakewalk, and then it could become into a bundle where it turns into the 10, 12-week beginner's course. And this is what we're going to do, record and learn the basics of how you can record and make your own demos from home. Acoustic guitar, electric guitar, learn, and then you could sell. Oh, I'm getting so upset. You could sell loops for drums, so people could just have a nice simple 4/4 rock beat or something like. There's so much potential there, and BandLab does nothing.
Yeah.
And it just, what grinds my gears, Rob? It's one of those things. And because that's a lot of people who are, and that's a really good age, because those people in those age groups have money. Listen, I get plenty of emails from people that send me their demos, and they're 19 years old and don't have any jobs, and I'm like, well, that's cool. Here's how much it's going to cost. Goodbye. Versus when I get a client who's in his mid-30s, they already know that they're going to pay, and they are going to have to pay. And I'm not going to have to hear any sob story about, well, the Biden bucks didn't come in yet. Listen, that's not my problem. You just, and it always sounds harsh, right? Like, Rob can totally understand my story right now, but maybe other people who are listening in were like, well, that's not very nice to say it's not your problem. Charity, I mean, it's very, very rarely where you be charitable and it doesn't come back in a negative way. It really does. Like,
Right.
No good deed goes unpunished. That is so true. Holy wow. You want to do something nice for a guy, and then he's got 3,000 mixed notes, and you're like, dude.
Yeah.
Or just like all of a sudden becomes an audiophile professional. Listen, I think at the 2-minute and 37 mark, there's some kind of harmonic happening on the bass slide. I think you need to do something. Listen, you recorded the bass slide because you suck at bass, so re-record it.
That's happened.
Yeah, I'm not making anything up here. I'm like, this sounds funny. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but it happens. And it's always and then that's why you raise prices, so you get rid of those kind of clients. Boy, there you go, done.
There you go.
Clip it.
With that segue, I actually am in the process, as of right now, of raising my prices. So,
Raise them.
yeah. If you would like to get it at the rate that it is currently, because it will be changing May 1st, just to let you know, if you'd like to get it at the price that it is currently, hit me up, because after that, sales are going to get worse. But the content's going to get better.
No, it's just, listen, one of the things that really, really upsets me is when people who know me, like they've talked to me like for 2 paragraphs on Facebook, and then they think we're friends, and they want me to do a mix for them. I'm just like, in what world? First of all, we're not friends. And second of all, if we were friends, how disrespectful is it that you won't even support me as a friend?
Yeah.
My business.
Well, and
it's so back.
I seen something online the other day, and it's going to end up going on my Instagram here shortly. Had to share it, but it says my rates are not based on your budget; they're based on my talent. So
yeah, that's it. We should do another video about that, because that is a really good topic. Like, when do you know you're good? Because this is something everyone struggles with. Everyone, even at the top. Warren struggled with it. Him and I talked about it. Kristen Kola, my mixing mentor, struggles with it. Everyone struggles with it. And we joke around to, like, even Andy Sneap and all the, everyone just goes, I really have no idea what I'm doing. It just kind of works out at the end.
Right.
And if people think we're kidding. Like,
No,
I'm going to do this
happens.
live stream mix. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I mean, I have an idea. Like, I'm going to go through my process. How's it going to turn out?
Well, that's the beauty of it. And that's one thing that I would like to make mention of right there. I'm just going to pause everything, put it all on hold. There are several individuals, and I'm just going to say this. Okay. There are several, because there are several individuals. Ooh, look at that pretty cup. Who put out tutorials.
For a pretty handsome man like me.
they churn out content, they put out these tutorials, and you don't know what they've put in it to get to that point, or how many other people they've had to go and research and find out the answers to get to that point. Whenever you get individuals like Scott and myself who are doing, and Warren and other individuals who are doing live mixes, you're seeing raw talent at its best. Yes, there's going to be mess ups. Yes, I actually did a live mix not too long ago where I was tweaking a knob for, I forget how long
was it on bypass?
Yes, the plugin was bypassed.
That's just a rite of passage, sir.
Right. But what you get there is you get like real firsthand knowledge of, you're working through the mistakes together. That's 100 times, infinitely more profitable to you as someone who's learning. But the point that I'm getting at, and this is where it's just, some of these guys that they might have 586,000 subscribers as of right now. Not going to mention what the channel is.
Oh, wow, that was pretty specific.
Not going to mention what the channel is, but that individual who's not running his channel anymore will put a tutorial on the channel that's showing you how he's got from point A to point B, and this is great and grand, but he's spent 16 hours editing that, if he even edited it himself, having someone else edit it for him, probably someone else mix it for him by now and put it on his channel for him. That's great. I hope you learned something from it. There's nothing wrong with it. We can learn from all aspects. I go to channels that I honestly can't stand their teaching style at times just to learn how not to do things.
There you go.
So with that being said, when someone is doing it live, you know that you've stumbled across somebody that really knows what they're talking about. Because if they can't put themselves out there and do a live mix of something in front of you, there's one of two reasons why they can't do that. So I'll let you decide what those one of two reasons are. So kudos to you, Scott.
They suck or they suck.
Kudos to you, Scott, for doing some live mixes, even if there are hiccups, even if there are mess ups, and that's good.
Well, it's funny. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I decided to do the live mixing because, well, two reasons. One, I needed to do content for YouTube. Because I got to say, guys, F in the chat, not F, yeah. Respects in the chat for Rob and his ability to do awesome social media stuff with all the graphics, the lighting. He does great Instagram posts. Rob. Because I am terrible at that. I'm awful at it. I hate it. I don't want to do it. And I don't. And that is costing me growth, right? So that's one of the reasons why I did the live streams. And then the other thing is I realized that there's a couple things. I don't care if I make mistakes live. It doesn't bother me. Because the only person who would be like, nah, are those gamma people that I would just block anyway.
Right.
Because they're not interested in learning or seeing success. They're interested in waiting for me to beep something up. Mm-hmm. And those are just people I don't want to be around anyway. And the other thing, too, really is I could sit here and I could brainstorm a video, be like, okay, what are the basics of using an EQ? But I have forgotten all the original questions that I had when I was new. I don't remember, the initial process of what I was trying to learn. Mm-hmm. So it really happens sometimes. Someone will pop in and they'll ask a question. I'll be like, dang it, that is a good question. And you get to either get a video idea or you can just demonstrate it in the mix.
Right. And that's why I love doing the live mix sessions, because you get immediate, like, beck and call answering question. It's awesome. And it's a very organic way too of fostering great questions and, like you said, great content, because then if I keep getting a reoccurring question, I can be like, well, obviously this is something that people want to know about that used to be hard for me, but I forgot that it was that hard for me, like you've just said. So
it's funny that we say that, right? Like, how could you forget? Well, dude, a couple thousand songs later, it becomes repetition.
Right. After a while, I mean, it's like keyboard shortcuts that I use in Cakewalk all the time. I did a video for that not too long ago, and it went over really well. But to me, it was just like, I'm so Control Z, Control F, F to do all this, hold Control, drag this over. And it's like, you do it so often that it's just like, you get to a point where you're like, maybe I should show people this because I'm saving a ton of time here.
Yeah. When are people who are still mouse clicking everything?
Right.
Oh, goodness. The dark ages.
X Dot has entered the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you, buddy.
Hello. Yeah, it's live mixing is pretty fun. And also when you so here's another thing to do too, is you should definitely live mix or just do mixing in front of other people, because it really does help you build confidence
Right.
in the decision that you're making. I remember when I used to do videos in the past, I was like, everything to the word, to the period, to the comma is scripted and edited,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to make any mistakes. I wanted to make sure that I put my best foot forward and I had the best product available. And this past live stream, like there was like a 20-minute stretch where something was going on and I couldn't figure it out. I had no idea. I'm sitting there going, well, guys, isn't it fun being a mixer sometimes? This is the real life right
and I
here.
think people need to see that. I think they do, because a lot of people have this misconception from watching, like say for instance, I even had for the longest time a misconception watching some of the big name mix engineers on YouTube, along those same lines, where you'd watch them and it's like, all right, we're going to throw some faders up. We're going to do this. I'm like, man, that's so easy. And you have this misconception of nothing ever goes wrong for them. They never have any hiccups. They just know exactly what to do. And with the right camera cuts and the right camera angles and you can make it look that way. But I love seeing individuals like, actually I was just on a live stream not too long ago with Warren, and I'm bringing him up again, guys. But he had this hiccup with his, because Pro Tools has to have this audio mover tool or something, whatever it was, where him and Reed Shippen were together and they were doing a mix contest with Reed Shippen's mixing a Nashville singer-songwriter course. And there were some hiccups there. And Warren's attitude was like completely commendable. He's like, guys, this stuff happens. I love to see the way that he handled it, though. He just didn't make a big deal out of it. He just got it fixed and moved on. Just like a minute ago, we lost Scott for a little bit because Skype and
it was horrible.
Yeah.
Could you believe it?
But we didn't melt down and shut the stream down and say, forget it. We worked through it, and now Scott's back on the screen and
for better or for worse. Yes.
Oh, for better, for sure. We got to see that beard, man.
Oh, dude.
The bearded wonder.
This is the goal right here.
Scott, the bearded wonder, Elliot.
This is the goal. I'm not even joking. I tell my wife every time. She's like, you should get that trimmed.
Right.
As long as you deadpan it. Yeah.
Well, if you start doing all the beard oil and the curling.
I already had dude, do I look like...
I triggered him. I wish I had a trigger button.
Well,
here.
I can't say what I want to say because this is a clean stream, sir.
Right on.
And I respect you too much to bring in my filth to your ultra clean stream, sir.
I do appreciate that, by the way. Folks, I've got to commend Scott, by the way. When I asked him onto the channel the first time, I told him this is a clean stream. I like to make sure if people are watching with their kids, and he was like, okay, cool. I won't tell you what he really said, but okay, cool. But he has been he has been a gem coming on here and sharing his wealth of knowledge.
Well, he's probably like, jeez. And don't tell me it's going to be live too.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I didn't say it.
No, but I do
really
appreciate you.
I found out it was going to be live. I was like, oh.
Well, at least you didn't take advantage of it. Like I had one individual on this channel who I brought on here live, and he took advantage of that and decided to go against everything that I asked him to do, and just made a complete fool of himself, honestly. Did nothing but self-exaltation, and many explicatives followed, and went on this kick about how that my tutorials were too slow and Bon Gonzo's were too fast, and yeah.
Well, just can't please everybody.
No, you can't. And
maybe they just don't have... Can I say this? Let me think about this.
At that point, I could have completely just
maybe they just don't have the right size batteries for the tool that they need to use.
Right.
See? Creativity, guys. Live mixing is great, though. It's a lot of fun.
It really is.
It's a lot of fun. I think you make a good point. Anyone who is able to, or at least willing to just do it live, you know, has put in the time. Anything like I make my guitar tones live, did all the MIDI editing live. Everything was live, and there was nothing that I did. The only thing that I did off stream for this mix is I did a bunch of the boring stuff. Like I made the session, I organized it,
Coloring
I did the
tracks,
editing
organizing.
because that's not interesting at all to watch. And then so all the creative stuff will be done live because it's usually a good idea to do all that technical. There's a microphone here, by the way. It's always a good idea to do the technical stuff separated from the creative stuff.
And by the way, I know there's some in the chat that are already wondering, who's that guy that he's talking about? Well, if you want to go back a few live streams ago, we had a mix contest where I brought on some other YouTube judges. Just get on there and I won't tell you who it is. Just get on there and pick out the different personalities and find out which one you think it was. So I won't mention his name on here.
I think it's one of those cases of which one of these does not fit.
Right. So I won't be the bad guy and mention his name on here. I'm not that kind of a person. So, well, along those same lines, along those same lines, we are going to go ahead and wrap up today's show. I'm going to go eat, get some food in my belly, spend some time with my family. I'm going to be creating some more content today based off of the recent thing that I just put in the community tab. So if you're not a subscriber to my channel or to Scott Elliott's channel, Chernobyl Studios, definitely give him a like, go over and give him a follow. You're going to love what he's doing over there.
Especially if you're into metal, and I do a lot more of the extreme stuff.
Awesome.
Like black metal, death metal, symphonic, that stuff.
It's good to preface that too. Thank you for bringing that point up.
I just want to I wanted to say this earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you about my mixing extreme metal thing on Pro Mix Academy. It's not necessarily extreme metal in terms like the music is super hard, and it's just I'm showing you what it takes sometimes to every detail to get a mix to the standard that people expect it to be. So a lot of the techniques that I showed are extreme in nature. For like the drum editing that I did. A lot of people would edit drums and just slap on slate trigger and just replace the shell.
Right.
What the drummer did for me is he took samples of his kit. I took the samples and arranged them, and I went in by hand and replaced hits that needed to be replaced, mostly due to cymbal bleed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an extreme way of doing what a lot of people would just do with slate, but you also have far more control of what you're working on, right? Manual will always be better in this case, unless you have really good miking technique and good noise cancellation on the microphones and the drummer's hitting like perfect. Then you have a really nice transient and everything detects okay. But and going through everything, and that session I think had like 90 tracks, with 20 of them being drums. Or a lot, 15 to 20 were, I don't remember anymore. This was a year ago already, but I mean, quad track guitars, leads, solos, strings, lots of strings, choirs, everything. And then I even showed how to make a mastering session to send it off to a guy who would do stem mastering. So that's what mixing extreme metal. It's not just the genre itself. It's actually taking it to the nth degree of, here's what we got, here's where we want to go, and this is actually what it takes to get there. All the steps included. It's like 10 hours of information there.
Thanks for clarifying that too as well. So if you guys are interested in that, I have posted a link in the chat already. There's also a link in the description of this video. You can go and check that out. There's a ton of awesome courses there from a ton of awesome people.
What everyone wants to know, Rob, is that an affiliate link?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Well, that's against my morality. I simply, this is free content. Just kidding.
Yeah, I guess I should say that, by the way. This is an affiliate link.
Yeah.
If you go there and you
super trolling you, man.
No, you're
just
fine.
Trolling you.
Actually, it's something I'm actually supposed to, required by law to tell you anyway. So I'm glad you brought that up. If you go to that link,
all the other companies who take our taxes would do the same thing. That'd be cool,
right? It seems like I missed a question here. I wanted to from a member. I want to get back to real quick. because I always
fine.
make sure to answer the members'
I really
questions.
like your guys' community, by the way. You guys are all really cool people. I like hanging out here. It's a lot of
Thank
fun
you.
for me. You're doing a really good thing. Like, I'm really impressed actually with all your presentation and how you do stuff. I'm kind of looking at myself going, oh.
I'm
And I know you
still
do this all
learning.
for free too, because you said you're Irish. So I'm really just sitting here going,
Scottish, man, Scottish. As if there's a difference.
oh, I was about to say that, but I wasn't sure if it was
Right.
you what, mate? You know, I didn't know if something was going to happen
Crikey.
here. Freedom, you know, and all
Right.
the.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Mob the Gamer, which he's reached his 1 month mark actually right now of being a
Bob
member
Gamer.
on the channel. Awesome. Thank you so much. And he came in at the $5.99 mark, which made him a assistant engineer here on the channel. He says, tell us about your camera incident. Oh, okay. So real quickly, like I said, I was trying to shut this stream down, but I want to answer this so I got on Facebook and I'm looking for a Canon SL3 because it has a clean HDMI output. I'm going to geek out on this for a minute. You guys might not even care. Reason being is because then I can use the Canon SL3 as my webcam instead of using this Logitech webcam, which does great. Don't get me wrong. It looks fine. But I'm always all the time trying to put back into the business, add into things. If you want to call free content on YouTube a business. But so I was like, I'm going to get the Canon SL3. I found one on Facebook. I absolutely love the price. It was a great price point. I'm like, great. Got in touch with a guy. Pretty much was a done deal. So I went ahead and sold the Canon SL2 that I had.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I have no camera now. I have no DSLR camera. Sold that camera. Got exactly what I wanted out of that just for the body. I pay the guy on Facebook for the Canon SL3. Gone. $350 in the hole. And no camera. So that's what happened. Mob the Gamer.
F in the chat for respects, guys. Press F.
With that being said, I'm doing my best to try to. I got some different things I'm looking into trying to offset that cost to get that money back. And Facebook
is there
has
no litigation you can do, or is it like not worth it?
Well, there is and there isn't. Because I went through Facebook, if I would have used the intrinsic app that's in Facebook, we could have helped you. But because you used a third-party paywall, Cash App, sorry, we can't.
It's not our problem.
So then I compliment, I'm like, thanks, guys. I go over to Cash App, and they're like, well, because you willingly gave them the money, all you can do is ask for a refund. Well, guess what? That refund's been sitting there since Wednesday, and he's not responded, ironically enough. But yet the listing, even though I've reported it several times, is still on Facebook, so he's probably going to scam someone else. With that being said, I'm out of camera, and I'm out $350. So that's the story. Unfortunately,
that is. I got one that's even better than that, or worse. just so you can feel better here. I'll make it all better for you, Rob.
Okay,
I'll make you feel better.
Let's hear it.
So when I was 20, I had a 9-piece drum set with a full line of the AA Metal X Sabian cymbals: 2 Chinas, 2 splashes, 3 crashes, 2 rides.
You're talking Chris Knowles language now.
Hi-hats, right? With a Gibraltar half-curved moon rack. Axis A longboard pedals. Guy wanted to buy it. He lived in New Jersey. Drum sets in Wisconsin. I lived in New Mexico at the time. I coordinated for the drums to be sent to him. He gave me like a down payment, like the first 40%. I don't remember what it was. He got the drums. Never heard from him again. So, significantly more than $350.
Yeah.
But lesson learned.
Yeah, I've definitely learned a lesson myself. So I won't be going through Facebook anymore at all.
See, if you even needed more proof that Facebook is the devil.
Key
But I'm just
takeaway.
trying to make you laugh.
Facebook is the devil. So, well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show today and for just helping me riff on this idea. And hopefully you guys got something from this. Not that we hate Cakewalk or that we hate BandLab or that we hate any DAW, but that we're just trying trying to give you sort of the ins and outs from people who have used it, so you know what direction you need to take. If you want to go with Cakewalk by BandLab, I'd be more than happy to help you. There's a huge community of awesome people here. We actually have a private Facebook group if you want to ask questions that aren't publicly seen. So everyone in that is such an awesome group of people. Like he's already said, I have never once had anyone that asked a question that's got bombarded with, what are you doing asking that question? Everyone is so helpful.
Yeah.
You're gonna find that in there. Likewise, if you're into using Cubase or if you're into mixing metal, get a hold of Scott. Let him show you the way. Let him be
Cubase
the
Master Race.
All right.
I appreciate that you understand. I'm just kidding.
No, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for being here today, for all the great questions. I appreciate everything
Absolutely.
that you guys are giving back as well. And it doesn't have to always be monetary. I do appreciate those who are members, those who are Patreon members, those who are giving in the membership here on the channel, or super chatters. I appreciate all of you guys, but I don't take into account anything that's done on this channel lightly. So if you've just been on here to comment, to show your support, that in and of itself is awesome too. And along those same lines, big round of applause to Scott. Yeah, that's right. I got him. Big round of applause to Scott for coming on here.
Why? Oh, okay.
I'm not paying Scott to be on here. He's just willingly giving of his time to
What?
be on here.
Then what was the point of me giving you my financials?
Stream's ended. Gotta go.
All right.
Typical
Good.
Cakewalk response.
Yeah.
But no, I really do mean that though. Thank you so much for being on here and for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us.
Fun.
You're just an
Good
awesome
stuff.
guy. We love you and love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Until next time,
You as
guys,
well.
thank you all so much for being here today. We love each and every one of you in the chat. You guys keep rocking it. Keep staying creative. Keep doing what you're doing. And until next time, you all remember that this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. Peace.